What is up, everybody? So I wanted to get this video out quickly. This was just live streamed. This is an interview with Christine Lagarde, European Central Bank, EBLC Northern Light Online Summit 2020, World Economy with Christine Lagarde. And this is about 7 or 8 minutes long here, but I really stress the fact that you guys need to listen to this. I will tie it together at the end here. For those of you that are not aware, Christine Lagarde has relationships with and has met with Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson, facilitated meetings with some of the highest level bankers in the world, with Brad Garlinghouse sitting at the panel table. And this should really open your eyes as to where you're going. Now, this first lady that speaks is from the ELBC. She talks for about 2 minutes here. And then Christine Lagarde touches on digitization. They mentioned blockchain in this. And she basically says that it's a march, and it's going to be a sequential march, and it's going to seem like everything is going very slow, and then it's not, and then it's just going to be here. So this is interesting, everybody. Please pay attention. I hope you guys enjoy this.
To Eric. And let me now go on to our last speaker in this session and get a very quick perspective on Corona recovery and digitalization, because it's often said, and in fact was just pointed out in this session, that the crisis has fast forwarded us into a digital future. That's certainly true here for the EBLC. So I'd like to come to EBLC's Northern Star, Minu Zabafi, Senior Vice President at Bertelsmann Investments and managing its global venture capital activities, to ask whether you agree with that view and where you see the biggest growth prospects. And I'll ask you to keep it very brief, if you would, just under 2 minutes. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Melinda.
And obviously we see Lagarde. I am going to interject maybe once or twice here, but not much, because it speaks for itself in volumes.
And thanks so much for having me. Coming back to your first question, I would certainly say that COVID has raised our awareness that there is a digital future. I would be careful to say, though, that we have all arrived there yet. What we can observe is, when you look into those ones who came out as the winners of this crisis, they have certainly invested in technology very early on, and they either control it or they own it. And that is clearly something to be considered going forward. Regarding the growth prospects, and I will make it very short in just 3 highlighting points. First, the pandemic, in my view, has shown us in an unprecedented way the importance of our health and human resilience. So I expect massive innovation happening in the spaces of healthcare, in the medical sector, and as well in the education sector. And this has been also pointed out by Christine Lagarde earlier.
Now she gets into blockchain.
Second, technology-wise, we have heard already a lot about AI in yesterday's session, so I would like to point out to what I would call trust-enhancing technologies. And if you look into the geopolitical debate that we also had yesterday around safe supply chains, I do believe that there is some momentum for the use of blockchains in environments where trust is a scarcity. Third, I'm a big believer, and this has been also been said a lot of times in today's sessions, in collaboration and partnerships, and especially in Europe, and especially with regard to this fragmented recovery that we've been talking about. That's why I'm convinced that any tools and technologies, such as open source, that will allow us to integrate, share knowledge, and collaborate faster will continue to grow, even more so after COVID. So coming back to what you said in the beginning, and probably also referring to that we probably have passed the lowest point, my call to action is that, especially in Europe, we need to find the right balance between preserving the old and investing and building the new digital future, so that in case we are fast forwarded, as you pointed out in the beginning, we are part of the engine behind it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minu Zabafi. Thank you for being with us. We are just about at the end of our session, so I would...
Now, really pay attention to exactly what Christine Lagarde is saying here. This last 4 or 5 minutes is so interesting. It definitely tells us where we've been, where we are now, and where we're about to be. And I was super excited when I saw this video. So
like to go back now to ECB President Christine Lagarde for some final concluding words, but I'll just get you started, if I may, Madame Lagarde, with one last audience question. And it comes from Magnus Schultz, who is from Wallenberg Foundations. And he asks how Europe can long-term reinforce its position and eventually its sovereignty in the international financial system, and thus be better positioned to counter US and Chinese influence. So in a way, another question regarding that long-term role for the euro, possibly as a global reserve currency?
I think that's a wonderful question to finish with. And I believe that there is a way. It will rely, in my view, significantly on cooperation amongst ourselves. I don't think that we will have an international currency of standing and level that we aspire to unless and until we have a deep European capital market. And we must build that, and I keep repeating it to our European leaders. They can't leave that behind if they really mean European autonomy, as it's called. Number two, cooperation with the rest of the world. And the European Central Bank, yesterday, I'm very proud of it, the Governing Council decided to put in place a new instrument that will allow us to provide euros to countries that can take advantage of that repo instrument that is available. So we can actually facilitate the hardship suffered by countries that have difficulties accessing euros. So cooperation amongst ourselves, cooperation with others. And I believe it will also require significant investment in digital. We will see digital payments, my hope, and we are working hard on that. Olli Rehn is a strong supporter of these initiatives, and all Governing Council are determined in that direction. We are working on digital payments, expanded, safer. The recent developments of the innovative private sector payment systems shows us that public sector investment and the trust embedded in central banks need to be deployed for that precisely. And, whether it is cross-border payment, whether it is remittances, whether it is access to the population that is still unbanked, all that needs to be supported in this digital
cross-border payments, remittances, and the unbanked population. That sounds very familiar.
Payment world towards which we are marching. It's not
digital payment world towards which we are marching.
Just about China. It's not just about Libra. It's also about us. And I think that intelligent cooperation plus a good digital instrument and appropriate regulation to back it up.
Intelligent cooperation, a good digital instrument, and the regulation to back it up
will help us develop that euro strong currency that will be a currency of reference. These things happen gradually over time, and then it happens very fast. Let's hope that we'll see that one of these days.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I'm going to provide a little bit of backdrop here for people that may not be aware as to the relationships that Christine Lagarde has with Ripple, as to who Christine Lagarde is, and just how powerful she is. Probably, if not the most powerful woman in the world as regarding finance, top 2 or 3. So we have a picture here. This is the world of payments. This was a gathering of some of the very large bigwigs in the world. Brad Garlinghouse here, obviously Christine Lagarde. Major IMF live stream tomorrow. This is the world of payments and currencies is changing, and then we see the picture again. IMF high-level advisory group meets in Singapore to deepen discussions on fintech. If you're not aware, Christine Lagarde was the head of the IMF and moved on to the European Central Bank. Now, this is past, present, and future of the international monetary system. This is Brad Garlinghouse, and if I'm not mistaken, walked arm in arm with Christine Lagarde into this conference. And some of the largest central bankers in the entire world, the most powerful people in finance. There's Christine Lagarde sitting there. You can see Brad Garlinghouse. Thomas Jordan, the chairman of the Swiss National Bank, head of the Central Bank of Russia. I don't know how much more clear any of this can be. European Central Bank, Bank of Japan, Project Stella mentions Ripple, or they provide information on Ripple for a selected private sector initiative. This is a submission by Ripple to the European Central Bank that dates all the way back to 2015. And this is what she was talking about yesterday, or that just came out yesterday from the ECB, Eurosystem Repo Facility for Central Banks. I don't know if, I doubt that the instrument that they're talking about in here is XRP, but they're opening up swap lines, and they are increasing, they're increasingly opening up the rails between all of these central banking institutions, supranational institutions. So I'm going to link this video because the whole thing's a good watch. I watched the whole thing, but the last 8 minutes was very eye-opening to me. I hope you guys like this and have a good rest of your day.